Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Easier Said podcast. We took a few weeks hiatus, a little bit busy, family life, work life. I'm sure you all can relate to the summertime craziness. Excited to be back. This has been, a big passion of mine, and getting a lot of this messaging out and the interview style that we do is just really, it's been special, and I've learned a lot. So thank you all for your patience, and thank you for hanging in there. I know a lot of you have mentioned to me, hey, it's a good time to get caught up on episodes you may have missed or ones you wanted to listen to again. So first and foremost, I wanted to just thank you all for your encouragement, the response from our listeners and viewers, just the overwhelming support. And I think that what we're doing here is really good. A lot of the messaging that is being relayed from our guests has been received really well, and a lot of people don't hear these messages. So thank you so much for your support, and really excited for the next slate of guests and for what the podcast has in store in the near future. We have new dynamics now. We have new equipment, which helps to kind of broaden our scope a little bit. We'll be able to do satellite interviews, traveling interviews, and debate-style interviews, so that should also be fun. Obviously, we will stay with our interview style for the majority of the time. I really enjoy that. I think that that's really positive and have been encouraging for people. So I want to make sure that we stay true to that and make sure that we get that wisdom out there for people who may not hear it on a regular basis or maybe never. This episode will look a little bit different. I'm going to be reacting in real time to some of our clips that we've had in the past and kind of just getting an idea for what I've learned in the last year and a half. 18 months since we started this podcast. I want to make sure that everybody knows I feel like I am the biggest beneficiary of the podcast. My wife has been so encouraging and so wonderful to allow me to do this in the first place, as a hobby at this point. And I just feel like a lot of this information that has been spoken to me across the table has really impacted me in my life and areas of my life that I need to get better and lots of different ways that need improvement. So I hope that that's the same kind of outlook that you have on it, that you've gotten from it. If you're new here, all of our information, all of our guest library is on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can check it all out, and it's really going to be good for you, I know. But this episode is just going to be me reacting to some of these, really profound moments that I cataloged quite a while ago. So I don't remember the order. I don't remember exactly who it is. So I will kind of be reacting in real time, just like you. But again, thank you so much to all of the listeners, to all of the guests, to everybody who's been involved or has supported the channel, supported the podcast. Really appreciate it. And just want you to know that this message and the message from our guests is getting out to people and is making an impact. So without further ado, we'll get right into the clips. Sound good? Let's go. Roll clip one.
The biggest trademarks of true masculinity is just having like EQ, being emotionally sensitive, being emotionally intelligent, and the whole idea of rah, like big, strong, tough, run fast, jump high, stoicism, all of that. There is benefit to all of that. That is all right. Components of masculinity. You have to be able to provide for your family. You have to be silent and wise. You have to make decisions. Stoicism is super important, but it's not the only part of the equation. And I think, to me, what brings masculinity together, what completes the circle, is emotional intelligence. I think when you are emotionally sensitive to others and you can be in touch with your feelings, and that's not seen as a feminine quality, I think that to me is true masculinity, bringing it all together.
That's such a good clip. I mean, Nick Kiliansky was a host on the podcast for over a year, helped me start it, and just intellectual, if there ever was one. Just really cares about deeply thinking about things, internalizing things and what that looks like on larger scales of issues like masculinity and different things. He also loves to learn, and that's something that I was able to learn from him, and I'm still learning. So what a great approach to that, just a nuanced approach. You have to have all the pieces of the puzzle, because some without the other can be toxic, and yeah, so just a good overall analysis there. On to the next one.
Selfishness is, I think, one of the biggest killers of marriage, because being selfish, it just stops any sort of flow for the other person, because you're just looking for whatever is going to satisfy you, whatever is going to make you happy, whatever is going to fulfill you. And it just, I don't know, for me, being selfless was something early on in our marriage I caught on to really quickly. And I realized that actually the best way for me to have a good marriage and to be served by my spouse is to serve her first. Always putting her first, always like saying what is going to benefit her the most. Because in return, it's kind of like sowing and reaping. Like me sowing all that selflessness just reaped the selflessness back. You know what I mean? Because then in turn, she was selfless.
Good advice from Corwin Christmas. That's episode 3. If you haven't checked that one out yet, man, you're missing out. A lot of good stuff about marriage, self-discipline when it comes to fitness or really any area of your life, and then also parenting. And I think there's some more clips on that, so we'll get into that. But selfishness, one of the biggest killers of marriage for sure. Even in my own marriage, when I'm being selfish, everything, the fruit of that is just so bad. And when I make a conscious effort to put my wife first, in any area of life, like the blessings just manifest themselves. And so something I need to work on. That's such a good reminder, such a good thing to think about, and so true. So on to the next one.
Yeah, I think that would be safe to say.
This is about discipline.
Because ultimately it is a choice. Yes, your body has to move and get in the car and drive to the gym or go down to your basement or put your shoes on, whatever. But the mental side of it is like you have to be strong enough to even have the desire. And it just goes back to what do you want now versus what do you want most. Mm-hmm. And that's where people kind of get hung up or get caught up. It's like you need to have a goal and it has to be realistic. Like you can't look at a picture of one of your friends, because you might get down to the same body fat percentage and still not look like them, because everybody's body is made differently. Everybody has different genetics. Everybody's muscle, like your muscles actually displaced on your body differently than other people.
Yeah, this is the part of the episode we were talking about. This is the part of the episode that we were talking about specifically to discipline and fitness. And, oh, man, what do you want now versus what do you want most? And I think if we had that outlook on a lot of things, it would change our behavior instantaneously. The more that you can understand that delaying gratification and not taking the easy way out in the moment is going to eventually compound into habits that are going to make you more disciplined, a better husband, a better father, a better employee, a better boss, all of these things, better in your community. You will reach those goals. And that's just so true. It's something that I constantly think about. And I think everybody struggles with. So, well said. And just a side note, Corwin's one of the most disciplined people, and he still understands that this is a struggle and a struggle for himself sometimes too. So, yeah, really good.
If your number one priority is not providing for my family, your number one priority is stewarding my child's heart, you will look at time with them very differently. Because if my number one priority is just putting food on the table, if your number one priority is just going and making a paycheck so that you can do the other things you need to financially, your children will be left behind, and you will get 20 years down the road where your child is walking down the aisle getting married, will be gone. There will be no relationship there, and there's no reason for them to spend any time with you then at that point. The investment has to start when they're little.
Yeah. That's kind of part of zooming out and seeing the big picture, and not only just, in our day-to-day macro, our micro vision of things, zooming out and understanding you are affecting souls, you are affecting generations to come. That is profound. You can start thinking about it that way. Understanding and taking stock is what I was talking about before with your priorities and stewarding your child's heart is such a high priority. Man, I love that. I love that clip. I could watch that every day. It'd probably help me. So on to the next.
It'll transform his life, and it'll change yours, because you won't look back then with regret. You'll say, that wiring is not a person. My house is not a person. My projects are not a person. Right?
Right.
We're affecting souls. And you got to think about, it's not just about your son, and it's not just about his son and his son and his son. Could be 100 generations that are affected by what you do and how you do it right now.
Right on.
So if you look at it as just one person, like, that's not big enough. You have to understand that his soul is going to then teach and train somebody else's soul and somebody else's soul.
Right.
Somebody else's soul.
Yeah, that's kind of piggybacking off the last clip. I just love that perspective. Like, what you do now isn't just for you. It's not just for your kids. It's for your kids' kids and your kids' kids' kids for generations. I've been very fortunate to have had men in my life, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, who instilled all of these values in us and helped to pass down all of this lineage of men who are serving their families and putting their families first. I just love that. I mean, stepping off the shoulders of the next generation and kind of proceeding that way that's what generational wealth really looks like. It's not a monetary thing. On to the next.
You know what's one really important thing that I think a lot of people miss? Tell them that you appreciate them. Tell them that you are proud of them. Don't assume that they know this stuff, because there's somebody out there, and somebody else will tell them or show them the love that they're looking for if they don't get it from you.
That's just understanding your influence on your children's life. What a good parenting tip for you. Realizing that if you don't give them the thing that they're looking for, they'll find it somewhere else. And the places where they find it somewhere else is not good almost always. So take what you're doing seriously with your kids. I mean, it's important. Speaking of which, if you can hear any crying, that would be one of my kids upstairs. Anyway, on to the next one.
Okay. I brought this.
Pause. This episode is just full of great things. You've got to go check it out. Episode 3 with Corbin Chrisman. And this is just a couple of the last ones from this episode that I picked out, but they are just so good. Any area of your parenting or marital or disciplinary life, this episode is just so good for it. So you should check it out. This is about intentionality with your children and the returns that it gives.
This with me tonight. Let's see if I can read without crying.
Oh, man.
I've been trying to be really, really intentional with my kids lately, to tell them how much I love them, how much I appreciate them, and to just affirm who they are as people, because I know that stuff is like $1,000 bills in the bank account. I know that it is. So my daughter, Lana, she's 9, and she's kind of the last one in the line that I've really been like working on. So this morning, Lana is very analytical. She writes and reads a lot. So I decided, okay, for Lana today, I was going to write her a note. So I wrote her a note, a little love note, and I set it right beside her in her bed. Oh, nice. Boy.
Nice.
All right, man.
All right.
I don't have tissues, so
it's okay.
Be nice to us. That's a cliffhanger, because the next one kind of gives the punch. So let's go to that one.
So then I was working later. She brings this down, and I didn't see it when she brought it down, but she brought it down. This is what she wrote. Daddy. Ooh, okay. I love you. You are amazing. I am thankful for you. I'd love to go on a date with you. Love, Lana. Just ridiculous. Like, one little piece of me giving 30 seconds writing my heart down to her, and then she reciprocates it. That's what you want for your children. I promise you, if you invest in them, you will see a return that you will not be able to measure right now, but when the time comes, you'll be able to measure it, and you'll be thankful for every second you invest.
So it's so good. I don't know what else to say. I mean, he said it all there. So just powerful stuff. Invest in your kids. It's the best investment you can make. All right. What's next? Let's see. So this is Carrie Herbine, who is now a CEO. At the time was a COO of a hospital. Came on to really highlight leadership development and what that looks like in a work environment specifically. And just if you own a business, if you are in a leadership position in any way, I mean, you lead your home if you're a parent. So all of these kinds of things can be correlated to parenting as well. But in a business setting, this advice that he gives throughout episode 5 is just immaculate. This next clip is specific to business and talking about the relationship between systems and people and how you need both and what it looks like to cultivate a culture where people can flourish.
People over systems.
People over systems. And I'm a systems process person. Right. You make sure those are in place and you continuously improve those. And I do think, to your question, you had a good thought. You do not land with that. There's your environment, the competitive environmental change, the workplace changes, demand changes, customer demand, patient demand. That is always dynamic. So systems and processes always need to be examined and improved and revamped. And it's the same principles that apply to environment. It's so precious, the environment, that I could create a great environment and mess it up 5 minutes from now.
A lot of humility in the way that he talks about. I mean, it's such a great leader, and if you asked him, he would just deny all that. But very, very good episode 5. That actually transitions a little bit into assuming intent of other people, and that's a part of leadership that I think is hard a lot of times, and vice versa for employees to employers. Assuming intent is a slippery slope and can really derail the system and the people. So I think we got a clip on that. Might be a couple away, but we'll see.
I think of systems and processes as the track. You have to have a track, and the team needs to know the track. They need to know where it is and what direction it's heading. And that's really the system and the processes, the mechanics of the minute-by-minute work. That is essential. You have to have that. And you have to have the environment by which you go as fast as you can, as best as you can, or that's sustainable for as long as you can on that track. So it's about talking and sharing those ideas and ideals that it's a false choice. We need both, and we need everyone together at the table, working together, hashing out differences and doing the work together. And appreciating that diversity because it's essential.
Mm-hmm. Just the balance of systems and processes with people. How do you integrate the two? That's I think a lot of leaders and a lot of companies would tell you that that's probably the hardest part of managing. So just some good ideas there.
And it's part of my blind spot. The reflex to get something done, or the reflex when something's not the way I know it could be. Well, who am I to decide that? At work, I'm responsible for output and results, but that's just not the way to get there. So surround yourself with great people and don't assume what their intent is ever.
There's such an ease and professionalism in the way that he talks and the way that he expresses these ideas that is just so professional. And shows that he knows his stuff. You get into these pitfalls. He calls it his blind spot when he starts to assume intent and just the dangers that presents. You are mostly always wrong when you assume intent. So balancing that with, wisdom and knowing when you're being deceived and all that's just a constantly moving pendulum, and you've got to hit it right.
A way to think about it for me, where I start to think about it in particular situations, is labels. I try to stay away from labels. So as soon as I say you're something, whether it's identifying or labeling a behavior or what I think you may be thinking, as soon as I label that, I have surrendered and landed that that's what it is in my mind. And I am almost always wrong. I am almost always wrong. And when I first realized that, I moved into space of trying to figure out, well, am I right or am I wrong as I'm thinking that? And that's wasted energy.
You know what's interesting is just the way that he presents these ideas. Influence thinking, not controlling results. Don't assume intent. Avoid labels. Understand the balance of people and systems. Like if you're in a business and you operate a business with employees especially, and you're in a leadership role, this episode 5 will really open your eyes to a lot of things. It's a lot of stuff that I'm working on, a lot of stuff that people don't think about, and I think would really, really encourage the atmosphere of wherever you're in business. So the next episode clips that I have lined up was episode 7 with Kurt Chrisman, talking a little bit about his adoption journey, and specifically the father's blessing. This is really cool. So check this out.
This thing that is called the father's blessing. It's huge, and it comes many different ways. And I hope there's some guys listening that need to hear this. There's this thing as young men, if we didn't have it, we need it. And we're looking for that I know that my Father approves of me and blesses me. In this trip, for my biological father, he's there and he's watching. And our house is like 25 people in and out all day long the first few days, just grandkids crawling all over me. Anyway, my dad, he's watching all this stuff. He's sitting there, he's in a wheelchair, he's sitting there, he's watching me. And he I'm getting emotional on it now.
Another cliffhanger. We'll get right into it, and then I'll give you context for the story. This next part will knock your socks off.
For my biological father, he's there, and he's watching grandkids crawling all over me. And I'm getting emotional on it now. But he said the blessing words. He said, "You've done so well, and I'm proud of you." And I guess what I want to say to people is, dads, if you haven't done that, your kids need it. They don't just need it when they're little. They need it when they're grown. Especially your sons. They need to know that. That is one of the precious things that I have. It's not on a plaque on a wall. It's on the wall of my heart.
Just a great clip. I mean, just so powerful. And just the power of a father's approval. So needed. The context for that clip was Kurt was adopted pretty much right after birth and didn't know his biological parents till 60 plus years later. And not knowing that there was a part of him that needed that encouragement from his biological father. He didn't know that he needed it until he got it. So it's just really cool. And the encouragement part, fathers, you have to do that. You have to invest in your kids, show them you're proud of them, and let them know, because a lot of people think that it's just assumed. But most people go their whole entire lives saying, not knowing or not hearing that from their fathers. So interesting part about that clip is there was a lot of reaction online, and a lot of men were saying, I never heard that from my father, who had recently passed away or whatever it is. So it really kind of struck a chord. Really cool story. So fathers, take your role seriously. It matters. The next clip is just an insight on marriage and how you should never stop learning.
The keys are learning, educating yourself and learning about your spouse and learning about yourself and what makes you tick, and what are the personality traits was huge, because knowing that she operated one way and I was like totally opposite, but we could come together. And same with the motivational gifts. Those two things were huge for us. And there's so much out there for resource.
That's just some good advice. Some good marriage advice. Like the amount of information we have at our fingertips. Like you should probably invest in learning about your spouse, learning personalities, learning love languages, learning what makes them tick, what makes them angry. Because the truth is there's enemies. There's enemies that are trying to tear you apart all the time. And figure out ways in your personality and in the ways that you communicate with each other and stuff like that, man, that helps. These are all things that I need to hear on a daily basis to help encourage me in my marriage. Good stuff. Next one I think is similar to what we were talking about.
I think that's one of the biggest lies of the enemy, is that he tries to get people to think that, or couples to think that, you're in this alone. People don't want to hear your problems. People don't want to know what you're struggling with. And that's exactly the opposite of what needs to happen. They need to get counsel. Dawn and I got counsel. One of the things we did was we did get some counseling from some friends of ours that we could trust. And it was hard. It's not fun, kind of putting some things on the table.
Just love the way that he talks about, kind of being vulnerable and speaking about these things. And it's all part of learning. It's all part of growing. It's awesome. It's good stuff. Let's get on to the next one. Next ones are from episode 9. Ezra Segrist was on and was talking a little bit about learning from other people's mistakes even, and the wisdom that can present. So let's check that out.
Well, okay, so do you mean like if you can help someone, if like somebody can learn through your experience instead of having to learn it on their own the hard way, like is that what you mean? Like there's benefit in that?
Or even if I can tell you somebody else's thing that they've learned and I've grasped, then we're 3 generations out there. If I can tell a young fella that and he doesn't have to learn it either, because learning, there's a lot of cost associated to learning especially if you're bound and determined to do it the hard way.
Boy, that's good. That's good advice. Yeah, you can learn the hard way if you want, but there's a cost. It's painful. Learn from other people's experiences. Humble yourself. It's encouragement that I need, for sure. Ezra is a very smart man, so I appreciate any time that we're able to talk to him and get him in. He's just got a wide range of insights and deep insights on many things. So really good advice right there. Learn from others. You don't always have to take the path less traveled and endure some pain for yourself. All right, on to the next one.
The truth is, we have influence, and any of those things, like if you don't use your influence, then what was it there for? And that's kind of how I view the TikTok thing. Is I'm trying to use that influence sometimes just to be funny, but sometimes also to, encourage or put ideas into people's head. Planting a seed of an idea is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. I do really like the way he laid that out. The truth is we have influence, and it's kind of up to us on how we want to use that influence. So something to be mindful of. Great episode. You got to check that one out for sure. Episode 9, Ezra. Next episode was that I have clips for was Patrick Harney. He's a missionary pilot in Africa, and just the stories and the way in which he talks about his job and his faith and some of the cool projects they were working on is a really good listen if you need encouragement in that way. Really, really great stories. And he also had some advice for us on marriage. So we'll get into those clips.
Like I can understand like tying a muscle together,
right?
Putting a new lens in somebody's eye. That's just like, it's
kind of
crazy.
Mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing. It's insane. And then, you're there the day after the surgery, they take the patch off and this person can see again. right there. It's so
and
cool.
what is that experience like? It must be like you ever see the colorblind glasses and then people crying for seeing color the first time.
Yeah.
So are these people who were able to see then lost vision and now they can see again?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yep. But maybe have never seen their grandkids.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And they'll do a lot of them. With the cleft lip, we'll usually do like 100 in a week. The cataract surgeries only take like 5 minutes. So they'll do like 500 in a week.
Incredible.
Yeah, 500 people who
Full
couldn't see
generations
last
that
week.
you can impact like that.
It's neat. Yeah, it's really neat.
Yeah, there's a lot of purpose in that. In that
Yeah,
work.
exactly.
Yeah, this is going to follow up into the next one too. Some of the projects they're doing in Africa, the cataract project and the cleft lip project.
If the baby's born with a cleft lip, a lot of times the baby and then even the mom and the family are ostracized. They'll say the baby has a demon or it's cursed. Curses and that kind of thing are very prevalent in that culture. And so there's really horrible stories. I mean, oftentimes the baby's just left out in the bush, to die. Horrible stuff. And so Samaritan's Purse has this project where this medical team, surgeons and OR folks will fly in from all over the world into Juba, which is the capital where the main base is, and set up shop, set up an OR, and we'll fly out, pick up a whole bunch of folks with cleft lip, bring them back. One day they do all the pre-op stuff. The next day they get surgery. Day after that we take them home.
Cool, purposeful work, that's for sure. Meaningful stuff. He then went on in that episode to talk a little bit about his relationship with his wife and his kids, and keeping faith the center of those things, and the importance of putting your wife before your children. Very interesting. So let's listen to that.
Relationship with Whitney first, and then the kids after that, teaching them.
That's interesting what you just said. You said the relationship with Whitney first, and the kids come after.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy to get that screwed up.
I was going to say, is that tough sometimes?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Only recently I've heard somebody say that out loud, and it was like, yes, that's right.
Yep.
Everybody loves their kids so much. It's easy, and we've had this discussion before. It's easy to neglect your marriage, and then
you see the divorce rate when the kids get out of the house.
Right.
Huge spike.
Yes, because you're living with a stranger.
Right. And it's funny. I mean, you get home from work when the kids are just like, Dad, and they're like running down the stairs, and it's easy just to be like, Dad, come look at this. Dad, come look at that, and just like a practical, intentional, like, nope, let me give Mommy a hug, see how she's doing, then we can go look at your flat bike tire or whatever it is.
Yeah. Go play ball.
But it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to keep that straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's good advice. I've actually, right around that time, I had heard a similar thing from a different podcast, and it was interesting to hear it kind of firsthand about how it's being worked out. And that's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do. But you cannot neglect your marriage, because when the kids are gone, even when the kids are there, but when the kids are gone, there's no relationship there. So keep that in mind. It's cool. It's good advice.
Yeah, well, that's it. Faith and family. I mean, yeah, if your walk with the Lord isn't priority, then it's all for nothing. And you see that in families, people trying to raise kids, right, but they don't know the Lord. It's like, what's the point? With the work, there's a lot of organizations out there doing the same stuff we're doing. They just don't have the gospel as part of it, and it's like, what's the point? There's no point. But then, yeah, at a personal level, that's it. Is that has to come first. If it doesn't come first, yeah, it's all for nothing. Wasn't worth it.
You're helping the people get to the next day, the next week, the next year, but the eternal thought isn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And it's easy to lose, however you want to say, lose the forest for the trees, but yeah, it's easy to get mired down in the work. Is the mission to deliver this load of cargo to point B? Well, yeah. But in the scheme of things, the mission is that these people hear the gospel, and then this cargo's a way for that to happen.
Just another macro perspective to keep things into context. Love that. Good stuff. That was episode 12, Patrick Harney. The next one, the next week was my brother Tyson. And he is somebody who I really regard in the field of parenting. And he had just bombshell after bombshell after bombshell that really struck another chord online. And this message is just not mainstream, a lot of it. And it's so good. So take a listen for just a second. I think most of these have to do with parenting. So if you're a parent out there, you can probably get something from this. Here we go.
Those are just some of the things I'm learning about myself, and just trying to pursue change in that and become, a better husband, a better father, a better boss, all that stuff. So it's interesting to watch my kids growing up now. I can see some of this stuff and I'm like, oh man.
You're like, that's me. It's all me.
I'm also super excited that I can still work on that.
Oh, I love that last part. And it kind of ties into the next clip, but excited about being able to work on yourself is a mindset that you can really do something with that. If you can get to a place where you're pursuing change, he said pursuing change in being a better father and being a better mother for mothers out there, being a better parent, being a better husband, all of these different things. If you can do that with the guise of how exciting it is that I get to attack this challenge and become a better person, you got to figure it out. And obviously he's saying there, like, I don't have it figured out. I'm working on this all the time. And I resonate with that.
Parents let their kids run rampant, and kids need boundaries. One book we read talked about how boundaries, exemplify value for what's inside of those boundaries. And so when kids don't have any boundaries, they don't feel valued. It's an interesting concept, because everything you hear is you can't say no to kids, you can't tell them what to do, you can only encourage them, blah, blah, blah. And don't get me wrong, I think we need to be a lot more encouraging. So I definitely need to do that more, but also the kids need to hear no. Like, they need to hear, no, that's not okay. And so when you place boundaries around them for that, it does let them know you care about them.
Sometimes saying no is caring. That is a great outline. If something doesn't have boundaries, then what would be inside the boundaries has no value. So that's the big takeaway from that one. Building boundaries creates value for what's inside the boundaries. And that's how your kids know that you love them in that way. A lot to unpack there. That's pretty deep stuff. So next one. Love that though.
The first 10 to 12 years is really the bread and butter of raising kids. And after that, your influence changes. Like, any discipline you inflict on them, whether it's a timeout or a grounding or removing privileges, it's really tricky at that 12 plus age, because it's hard for it to not build resentment in the child. So we really approach it with listen, this is what went wrong. Here's what's going to happen if we continue to let you go on this path.
I'm not quite at the stage yet. Where that's true. I'm in the early childhood stage. So come back to me in 10 years and I'll let you know. But interesting how dynamics have to change. Raising your kids, the dynamic and parenting style has to change. And all the groundwork that you lay before that is so important. So take it seriously.
Here's what's going to happen if we continue to let you go on this path. And I really don't want to do that. I want to bring you back into, the safety net of how to function. And so that changes the whole perception. When it's the kid just standing there ready to get pounced, by dad, and here comes the barrage again, I'm going to get chewed out for whatever, to, no, my concern is not that you've offended me. My concern is that you continue on this path, and the what you're going to reap because of what you're sowing right now
is destruction.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you're going to die from this,
right?
But you know what? It could mean that relationships are a lot more of a pain, and so here's something you need to figure out.
Yeah, a big theme of that episode was the heart behind correction, and what discipline and discipling your kids looks like. So you got to check that episode out. Here's the next clip from that one.
I've always wanted to raise my kids to be good decision makers. So that means letting them make decisions that I wouldn't normally let them make, as long as it's not detrimental to their health or, going to cause major repercussions down the road. Letting them make mistakes is one of the best ways, obviously, to learn. When we're working on cars, we learn way more when we don't find the problem right away.
Yeah, good advice for raising your kids. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory there. This episode was just so full of these kinds of nuggets of information that you can use in your everyday parenting.
I don't want to raise my kids inside of these boundaries for 18 years. And then at 18, you're just like, all right, there you go. Do whatever you got to do. So you let them push boundaries. You let them make decisions because they need to be good decision makers. Like, that's the whole goal of having kids, is to send kids out, right, to prepare them for life. Or once you have kids, I guess you can have kids for different reasons, but when you have kids, what you want to do is prepare them for their future. And if you're not teaching them to make decisions and just kind of figuring it out on their own, then you're going to send them out very unprepared.
Yeah, it's really good. Another guest that we had on was talking about raising competent adults, not children. So very, very cool. Something about the way that he is able to express these ideas just really kind of resonates. And these are, again, things that I need to be constantly reminded of, as you're in the middle of your daily parenting. Next one.
To develop kids who are kind and compassionate and loving and respectful, among other things. So again, parenting is half about raising the kids and half about God changing you, and so if you are a very impatient person, kids will shape that up in you quickly if you allow it to, obviously, the more kids you have, I think the more patience you need. Although after 3, you don't even really know how many you have, kind of, because they just there's the older ones helping the younger ones now.
I love the part in that about parenting being half about raising kids and half about God changing you. Anybody who's a parent will understand the patience analogy there. So really, really good. Yep.
Well, I appreciate hearing that, because when you're in the middle of the battlefield, you don't always see, that you're winning the war, kind of, right? Mm-hmm. And so
when you send your kids out is kind of when you
it feels like there's a lot of casualties in just little interactions, and it's like, man, I feel like we're banging our heads against the wall with X, situation or whatever. But then you see them interact with other kids or other adults, or, Olivia has a huge heart. And so it really kind of brings it full circle. I heard somebody say one time, like, if you're too far removed from something, you don't have a good view of it. But also if you're too close to something, you don't have a good view of it either. And so it's nice to hear that.
Yeah. That's a perspective lens thing again. The more that you hyper focus on something, maybe you don't get the macro view, and the further away you are from it, maybe you miss details. So really, really good insight there. Yep. I also love the analogy of war. Sometimes it does feel like you're in the middle of a battlefield with your kids or on the day to day, and not understanding that there's grace and there's a bigger picture. It's just a constant thing. So perspective builder. Yep. The next few clips I have are from Kurt Heise, who is a missionary, a pastor, an inventor, and a businessman. And a lot of that conversation really focused around courage. And just super powerful message all throughout that episode. The different areas of life where we need to have courage. So let's get into that.
In a marriage, have courage to do the right thing. Come on, men. Lead your family. Have the courage to do the right thing. Not just what maybe your buddies have done or that type of thing. Because I think inside you often know the right thing. So have the courage to do it. I think that's important. And I actually think women look for a man that has courage and respect that, especially when they have the courage to do something right. And yeah.
Yeah. That is something that's not taught in our culture enough. You know, being courageous, being formidable, being competent. It's just so important. I mean, and the relationship between men and women, he highlighted it perfectly there. Obviously, that message was geared toward men, but, you know, it takes a lot of courage to do the right thing sometimes, especially when it's not comfortable, or especially if there's consequences that maybe in the short term are going to be painful. But courage, there's a reason it's a virtue. So, yeah, he gets into that a little bit in the next one, too, I think.
I think the world is looking for some men of courage. I mean, if one man, Gideon, turned their whole culture around, you know, and his culture was a mess. If we live in a culture that's a mess, what can happen if one man says, you know what, I'm going to have courage. I'm going after the Baal of my day, you know, the wokeness of my day, and I am going to have courage. And whatever that might mean for him, you know, I think this world's looking for men of courage in every situation.
Yeah, another good follow-up to the last one. It's just a really good message. The next clip is just kind of a mashup of some of the things that he said that I thought were profound. That didn't have their own clips, so that we made that. So just excuse the motto music in the back, but the messaging in here is really good. So check it out.
You know how much money a good idea will make you? None. You actually have to have the courage to step out and do something. All those really difficult times were great learning situations now that we look back at. 是的，你我说的中文吗? Or would you rather I speak English?
Yeah, English is better.
Okay.
That was cool.
I don't have to live by my emotion. I just need to do what I'm supposed to do. Courage usually feels scared to me. I began to realize, you know, that's only an emotion, not something that I need to gauge my life by. They say that in a marriage, the thing a husband needs the most from his wife is respect. We gain that respect when we act with courage. You want to help your marriage out? Be courageous to do the right thing.
Yeah, there's a ton of good nuggets in there. I could watch that probably over and over. It gets me fired up. The next clip is from episode 23 with Tyler Roggie, and he was really kind of attacking the work-life balance, you know, the work-family balance, which is really a, you know, hot-button issue. A lot of people talk about that. What does that look like? What does a healthy one look like? You know, how do I get to a place where I can prioritize my family while still providing for my family, especially for men, but for women as well? You know, what does that look like, and how should you go about it? And it kind of reflects back on, you know, some of the clips that we watched with Corwin. You know, you're affecting souls. You know, your family's important, especially when they're young. You don't get those years back. So this is a pretty refreshing take. So have a listen.
My priority, I know for the next 10 years, I can go back to work when my kids are gone. That's not a problem. And not saying I'm not going to work now, but like, I'm not working 70 hours a week now.
Yeah.
You know, I've even gotten to the point where I try to take most like Friday afternoons off to get all my paperwork done for that week.
Yeah.
So that I have my Saturday and I have my Sundays.
Yeah, big
and
priority
we can go
shift.
And hang out with them. Yeah, and I love doing stuff with them, especially my boys, my 12-year-old, my 11-year-old. That's like priceless.
Yeah.
The amount of fun that I can have one-on-one with my boys. And then this year with my younger boy, he's pretty big into baseball, and we got to go down and watch the Little League World Series for a day. Just the two of us, it is like the greatest blessing ever.
Yeah, just a cool thing. And from knowing him closely, obviously, this guy is a go-getter. He's a worker. He's a hard worker. He's determined to be successful. He'll put in the hours. And to see that shift in his life where, yeah, it's not about growing your portfolio. It's not about, you know, building the next house for sale. It's not about that. It's about a priority shift to what's really priceless, and that's at home. So really cool. All right, the next one, the next clip that I really liked was Evan Jennings, episode 24, talking about building healthy habits and what that looks like. So let's check it out.
I think that when you find those things, like let's say you implement one single habit, and maybe that's something that helps you transform your body into a healthier composition. Once you start seeing success in that area, it's also motivating in other areas of life too. Like having a win in one area is going to be like, okay, where else can I win?
Yeah.
And so I think that those habits will almost naturally start to stack as you find that first taste of success. It's going to be, all right, what other systems can I implement to make my life better? So it's a cool journey to be on, kind of trying to find those and experiencing that success and bringing it into other areas as well.
Really.
That seems.
Yeah, really. Just that's a good way to think about it too. I mean, small victories add up, so the more that you can compile those habits and start to, progress in one area of your life, that will influence other areas of your life, even if that's not your intention. And what that looks like in, the macro sense is that you continue to grow. So really, really great way to put it, and super smart guy.
That seems to be more effective because folks are a lot more interested in what you have to say once there's some rapport and some love there, and without that, it comes across pretty preachy sometimes. I think.
Yeah, and people have very long memories, and you only have to meet some.
So then the conversation kind of directed toward relationships and how to influence thinking instead of controlling people, kind of as we mentioned that before with business with Carrie Herbine, the CEO. But in this sense, in this avenue of life, he really sums it up well to the necessary relationship in order to influence somebody's life. So check us out.
That seems to be more effective because folks are a lot more interested in what you have to say once there's some rapport and some love there, and without that, it comes across pretty preachy sometimes. I think.
Yeah, and people have very long memories, and you only have to meet somebody once to make an impression on them where they'll think of you at random times throughout their entire life.
I wasn't like, I was praying and
Yeah, so I mean that's wonderful advice. Relationship and trust in a loving manner will be far more effective in communicating your desire for them to do better in a critique or in an advice type of setting. So that's really cool. That should be there first and foremost. It's hard for somebody to have their heart in alignment to receive instruction or advice or a change in direction when that rapport is not there, when they don't know your intentions, that they know it's coming from a loving place. So basically what he's saying is once that's established, it's way more effective. So really good. So the next clip that I have is from my grandfather. I was fortunate enough to have both of my grandfathers in here to just kind of talk about their experience and give their insight on different areas of life. But my grandfather on my mom's side is Melvin Zare, who turns 90 this coming weekend. And just the legacy and, the cascading blessings of all of the intentions and work that he's put into our family is just so evident. And so this is just a fun clip from that episode. So check it out. What are you most proud of?
I'm just proud of my family and all my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Do you know how many you have?
Is it 38 great-grandchildren?
Is that right? 38 great-grandchildren. Okay.
Is that right? Did I have it?
Look at that. And do you know how many grandchildren you have?
20.
20 on the dot.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously your favorite.
Yes.
Yes.
You are right now.
Gramps, I've heard that as you get older, things in life start to fade away, and all that's left that's important besides the Lord is family. Do you think that that's true? Or has that always been true for you?
Pretty much true to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it shows. So at the time of the recording, he had 38 great-grandkids. Now he has 40, with 2 more on the way, I believe. So just to see the family tree come from, a man like that and my grandmother is just such a cool thing to see. And yeah, it's always been true to them, faith and family for sure. The next clip is from Christian Christmas episode, which would have been episode 29, and talking a little bit about the intricacies of embracing the journey of parenting. So check us out.
True.
But
yeah, and that's one of the things too. I try and be really, really careful about how I speak about somebody else's parenting style and like how they do stuff, because it's like I have strong feelings on how stuff should be done, but at the same time, like I realize that my children are not their children, and like people's children react differently. People's children need different things at different times, and parents are at different places at different times.
How about your parents aren't their parents? How are they raised? How are they brought up? What did they see? What were they?
I think that's the key.
So the next clip is from episode 29. It was Christian Chrisman, and he went into the same kind of theme of shepherding a child's heart and what the difference is between discipline and punishment. So let's get into it.
I think that's the key. Punishment is a horrible idea. Kids shouldn't be punished. They should be disciplined, and there's a big difference between them. For me, when I look at that, it's like I punish them because they have ticked me off by doing something, and I'm ticked about it, so I'm going to make them feel miserable about it, which I have done. There's times when like, versus I want them to learn and grow, and I want them to realize that their actions are going to have consequences, and I want to give them consequences that are little today, so that when I don't have the choice to give them the consequences and it's life giving them to them, they'll already be learning how to make good decisions. It's just a totally different mindset.
Yeah, so good. So good. The root word for discipline is discipling, and I think that gets lost a lot of times. It's the heart behind the action. It's the heart behind the parameters, and that's really important. And I think he lays it out well there. So that's a really good way to think about the difference between punishment and discipline, and something that I constantly revisit. And my wife and I have dialogue about, where's the heart? Where are we coming at this from? And if the parents are coming at it from a place of anger, then that makes it very, very difficult to properly discipline. It turns into more of the punishment realm, which is never a good idea, as he laid out there. So the next one is really good and talks about the kind of finding the middle ground for parenting.
Up for success too. You hear people talk about like, let the kids make their own decisions, that kind of stuff. And there is like, that is at war. I shouldn't say that's at war. A lot of times I think the people that I hear that are like, use like very rigid discipline, and the people that are like, let your kids make their own decisions, are on like different sides of the spectrum a lot of times, and they wouldn't have a lot of common ground. But I feel like I use both, because I'll be like, hey bud, in 5 minutes it's going to be bedtime. Now remember, if you have a good attitude, we can have hugs and kisses in bed. If we have a bad attitude, we'll have to have a discipline in hugs and kisses in bed. So just so you know, a few minutes, it's going to be time, and you're going to have to decide how you want bedtime to go. Like, I'll do that to like, because he is little. He's got a little braid. Like, he doesn't necessarily remember. So like doing some of that kind of stuff and being like, hey, letting him know what my expectation is for those kind of things makes it so that he can kind of decide.
That's a hard path to take, because that takes a lot of time. Like, and that's one of the hardest parts about sitting down, working through this, and producing disciplined behavior, is that it's time consuming, and it's hard to do that after a long day's work or after a night of no sleep or whatever. And so making sure that your mind is right all the time is really the battle. Something that we all struggle with. So very interesting that, you can use both and communicate properly. That way they know your heart, and that seems to go the furthest. For this next clip, I had the opportunity to sit down with my grandfather on my dad's side for episode 34. And that was also part of the Legacy Project. Really great conversation. A good perspective builder on, the better part of the last 80, 90 years, what it was like growing up, through the Great Depression and all of those kinds of things until today, and how that affects us. He talked a little bit about how prosperity has its own problems too, and then also dealing with loss. And he's gone through some trials that way. So it was really great episode. You should check that one out. It's episode 34. But check out these clips in the meantime.
It got difficult, but I think somebody says prosperity does more damage than hardships. And I think that could be quite true. We like prosperity. Nobody likes to be poor, but I think prosperity can lead us into devoting ourselves to a lot of things that aren't very important.
Hard things are character builders. Hard things are perspective builders. Yeah. Hard things build calluses for people to be stronger for future things. When you're comfortable and you're complacent and you become distracted easy, very hard to get distracted about what really matters when you're focusing on keeping what really matters alive. Yeah. And I think that that is something that you're exactly right. Our culture is totally lacking on. The whole, do hard things message is starting to get out there more often, but you need stronger people. You don't need, better circumstances.
I think we've developed pretty much me first the attitude, and that's why I appreciate it, like what you did with neighbor, talking about concerned about him. Tyson goes out and plows the driveway for older people, can't do it themselves. And when I see my children and grandchildren and the great-grandchildren doing those kinds of things, to me, that's very satisfying. It makes me feel good that because that's kind of foreign to the mentality of society.
Yeah, well said. What a lot there. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to add to that. That's just really well said. Good stuff. Next clip. The next clip kind of goes into depth about what it feels like to lose someone, especially a child.
And that's why, when Kathy lost her two boys, for Grandma and I, that was
kind of opened up a lot of.
It was just devastating to see her go through, her and John go through it, and knowing what we went through, and Derek died. Pastor's wife, the church says, they say God doesn't make mistakes, but this seems like one in our mind. It was interesting. I was taking a tractor over to my brother Andy's, Tyson, and anyhow, there was a rainbow. And Tyson says to me, is that where Derek and Darren are? And I said, yeah, they're lucky.
That clip always gets to me. So they had lost a son that was stillborn, and then decades later had to watch their daughter go through similar things with her children who passed away. And I mean, this is just a heart-wrenching story. And that episode kind of goes into how you can persevere through those kinds of things and move on. So episode 40 was Christian Zare, just a great episode, kind of highlighting his journey with identity struggles, fulfillment beyond suffering, what that looks like to trust, and just really good messaging here. So take the clip away.
For a long time, I didn't trust that God wanted me to have a happy life. And granted, happy is probably the wrong word. I didn't trust that God wanted good things for me. I thought God wanted me to suffer and be miserable and be lonely. I believed this in my core for a while and finally had to confront that. And the same with letting the Lord have access to what you have or what you don't. It requires trusting that He is good.
I think some of the best episodes have just been people coming and humbly telling their story, and the impact that that's had on other people is just profound. So I've got another clip here from that episode too. Just going through difficult things, what it looks like to break free, what, triumph and redemption through struggle. What a great example of that. So you should check that one out. It's episode 40.
That's the easy part. The hard part is saying, I want it to be different. That's where you really have to sit with yourself and be like, do you though? Or are you hoping that you can just get a little grace so you can go around and do it again?
Exactly. Yep.
That's difficult because most of the time we haven't repented, and that's really uncomfortable to confront. Really uncomfortable for me to confront.
Oh, that's well said. Yeah, it's the hard work after.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't happen again. That's what's hard. It's not always just admitting that you're wrong. It's like, how do I make it not happen again?
Right. Yeah, go and sin no more. A lot of times I had to confront and address, usually with the help of others. Like, am I just trying to modify my behavior so I can continue living comfortably, continue to have a community and support? Or am I really actually doing this? And a lot of times it's like, oops, I haven't really been in this. I've just been floating by here. That's why it's so important to be in a community that won't let you go.
I think what needs to be said about that is just how convicting that is for me personally. Yeah, I think that's just such a good story. But it begs to the deeper questions of when you make mistakes, what are you going to do about it? And what are your intentions and what's the heart behind getting better or doing better? And that's a daily struggle. Messing up all the time. It's just what we do. So how do you go about fixing that? How do you go about making sure it doesn't happen again? And then when it happens again, making sure your intentions are in the right place to try to correct that behavior going forward. That's a hard pill to swallow. And I think everybody can relate to that. I know I can. The next clips that we have here lined up are from Mark Bellafiore, episode 38. Just a lot of really good conversational points there and a lot of self-reflecting and leadership goals too. Just kind of some ideas on how to lead other people. But then also he got into talking about his father and the passed down strength through hard work and experience. And it's just good stuff. It's just building resilience, what that looks like. And, the power of a father's influence.
I draw on that. Like because you know me, I get frustrated at some things and I'll get, but I'll always go back to that. And I'll draw on something that he said or did that makes me take stock, regroup, and go back after it. That's from him.
The older that I get, the more I learn that things don't happen for no reason. And I'm sure that if your father could sit here today and hear us say like how smart he was and how he could just do anything, I'm sure that he would say, I learned at some point, and then I stacked experience on experience and worked for everything that he had. Every knowledge he had, he worked for.
Yeah.
And so it's we're born with gifts, but hard work is so much more. And I'm sure he would say that.
Yeah.
And I believe that.
I'll mess with my kids because I'll say to them, how do you think my dad knew that? How did he? And they will say to me, oh, he just would spout out any answer and you had no way of checking it. And I'm like, no, he was Superman. He's Superman. Don't
And in the background, like he worked for everything that he probably. And then it's the years of stacking knowledge upon knowledge on knowledge where you then start to like have usable skills and can do things that your father was able to do.
Such a cool insight to a father-son relationship and what that means. Mark lost his father when he was, I think, 26 years old. And even now, we're talking, decades and decades later, his father's voice, his father's influence, his father's knowledge, his father's experience is still being shown through his son. And I think that's really cool. So don't downplay the impact that you have on your children and, the influence that you are for them. So that's pretty cool. Pretty encouraging. The next clip I have from that episode was talking about leadership and effective management styles and how a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work when you're working with lots of different people. So it's a really cool episode and a cool clip here. Check it out.
Managers that are not successful are the ones that take a single approach to all employees.
Yeah, is that laziness, or is that just bad strategy, or?
It's old school strategy, ruthlessly pounding your employee to do their job. Lockheed is nothing like that, right? So Lockheed was a culture shock to a lot of old school Sikorsky guys. And there were some successful, obviously, it was a successful company. Lockheed came in with a completely different approach, that collaborative approach, that approach of, hey, we are going to empower individuals and cultivate individuals and extract all the talent we can out of each individual to build the best team possible. That's Washington. That's how he leads, how he led his teams, right? Empowering his colonels to go out and do their thing. If they didn't, then you move on to something else.
Okay, so what I'm gathering here then is, if you've got this team, if you have a good manager can see the needs of each individual person as opposed to managing the whole flock of the same. If you've got people that look at that, because this is super common, it's like, you're not treating everyone the same. Everyone is seeing this equal treatment, equal treatment. But like good managers, you treat everybody equally, but maybe you don't manage everybody the same.
One part that is in the end of that clip is Nick talking about good managers treating everybody equally, but not managing them the same. And I think that that's really important. Really cool. A lot of interpersonal relationship stuff in that episode. A lot of leadership goals and leadership axioms that you can check out with Mark. And that's episode 38. So check that out. The next episode was with Dr. Sean Harney, and I feel like probably one of my favorite episodes for sure. Just extremely intelligent man with a lot of different skill sets and a lot of different ideas, and just really good storyteller. Had a lot in that episode that I won't be able to get to in the clips here, but talked about a worthy job, talked about his upbringing, talked about his journey in the field of medicine. Just absolutely unbelievable. You have to check out that episode. But I do have one clip here talking about a worthy job, so check that out.
I'd say the thing that makes it a worthy job is it serves people in society, and you put your whole person to it. That's what makes it worthy work. And it could be cleaning the hallways at the hospital, or being the surgeon, or the CEO. All three are worthy if the work is done in such a way that it uses the passion, energy, abilities of that person. It then becomes worthy, I think.
Yeah.
So there's not worthy and not so worthy jobs, I don't think.
Yeah. What is the Bible verse? Do everything to your best of your ability as unto the Lord. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yep.
That's what we're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, I have nothing else to say about that except for you need to go and watch episode 39 with Dr. Sean Harney. It is so good and just so much good stuff in there. So I'm not going to say anything more about it. Just go check it out. All right. The next clip that I have lined up is about servant leadership in the Coast Guard. So check this one out. It's really good.
This idea of servant leadership, right? Like I tell the guys this whenever I do check-in meetings with guys that are reporting newly to the boat. My job as the XO is to make sure that everything runs as smooth as possible. And so what I tell the guys is my job is to make sure that you're taken care of, which means that your family is also taken care of, right? Like my job is to try to make sure everything runs smooth so that you're ready to do the job that we're entrusted with and that we're charged with by the American people. To keep the waterways open and safe for commerce, for recreation, all that kind of stuff. So this idea of servant leadership is really probably the biggest one that I've tried to latch onto, and the idea of service, like the purpose of what we do in the Coast Guard. And this has been lost. We were talking earlier a little bit about generational stuff. This has been lost on the current generation of service members, is the fact that, like, hello, the word is service. You're in the service. You are not there for yourself. You are there to serve the country. Like the primary role of what you're doing is you're making some kind of sacrifice for the good of other people, for the good of what the country needs you to do. That's why it's called the service. So, people complain about that kind of stuff is my point, right? And they're losing we've lost the mindset of a service mindset.
And that kind of piggybacks on what Corin was talking about before, service first and serving your spouse and serving your family and serving your kids and your community and serving your nation. So this next clip is just kind of a story. And this is kind of the fun part about the podcast is you get to learn about the jobs, about the experiences, about who these guests are through stories and experiences that they have. Really cool. So this is actually a interdiction story from the Coast Guard down south of Florida. So this is Paul again.
Coast Guard, Channel 16, switch to whatever channel, ask him what he's doing, how many people you got on board. Oh, it's just me. And we're like, yeah, right. We saw the other guy with you. So right away, we know that he's not being truthful. Right. So we hop on board and send two of the guys over to do a boarding. The guy's not letting them into some of the spaces that we need to get into. There's locked cabin doors and stuff like that. So I called my boss and I was like, hey, this is something sketchy here. I don't have the manpower to be able to send more boarding team members over because I think we were only underway with 9 or 10 guys at that time. So we worked through my boss, got Air Marine Operations CBP to meet us at the dock, brought the boat into the dock, and they got into those spaces and stuff, and it was 14 Chinese migrants that were trying to get into the U.S. illegally. Some of them were actually being trafficked, and they didn't know that they were being trafficked. And there was the guy that was actually the operator, had ties to the Italian mob in Miami and stuff like that. He had a rap sheet for all kinds of smuggling and whatnot. Yeah. And then there was another guy that was a Bahamian smuggler. So it ended up being, a great interdiction of some folks that were ultimately being trafficked. They didn't realize they were being trafficked, but they were going to be forced into some type of equivalent of a slavery kind of thing. And they ended up getting an AMO ripped into that boat a couple weeks later, and they found $200,000 in cash or something like that too. So that was a really cool interdiction.
Really cool stories. You got to check out that episode. It's episode 42. The last clip that I have here is from Natasha Metzler. She's an author, and she came on to talk a lot about some of her political views, then also about her writing and her experiences with adoption and some different things. And one of the real key takeaways I thought that was great from her episode was she was talking about the heart behind listening and how we need to do that more, and especially around hot button issues and topics in our culture. So I thought that was really good. I want to check that out, and then we'll get you guys on your way.
If you want to have relationship, and again, that's where it comes to why I say, as a church, we need to be listening more, because our whole purpose, what Jesus has us here for, is to share the good news, right? Is to have relationship, to love our neighbors. And so it should matter to each of us that we have relationship with whoever the Lord puts in our path to the best of our ability, right? And so listening and trying to hear, how is this affecting you? Why, that's okay. Even if that's not what I meant, if that's how it's affecting you, then how can we adjust? How can we hear each other? And how can we work around that? And obviously in my family, it was really important because this is my daily life. But even with your neighbor or somebody down the street or somebody on Facebook, whoever it is, it's part of our calling as believers is to love, and loving means listening. I don't think that you can love anyone well if you're not ever willing to listen to them, right? It's just not going to work.
Really well said. Really good perspective on listening and loving and relationships. So that's another episode you got to check out. It's 45. I'm looking right now at the channel, and those clips that we just went through are just some highlights from 1 through 45, really. And we have had on since then many outstanding guests with such profound insight. So we have business owners, we have people in medicine, we have another legacy series episode, we have military personnel, missionaries, we have ultra marathon runners, just more parenting advice. I really encourage you to keep an eye out for our channel, because we'll be sending out the clips on all of those episodes which haven't been released yet. But other than that, that's pretty much it. And thanks for joining in today and getting some of those clips under your belt. You can find us on social media at Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. It's all Easier Said Podcast. All of this information is on there. All of these clips are on there, and the in-depth, long-form episodes are also on there. If you want to, like and subscribe to those, you can. That really helps the channel reach more people. But other than that, that's going to be a wrap for today. We'll probably do another one of these as soon as the clips keep coming out, and we'll be able to kind of compile a new list. But wanted to kind of put this all together and have an episode to send to you before we get back into the interview style things, since we were on a little bit of a break. So thanks for spending time with me, and we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.